Hi everyone, it is April from Getting Hooga With It. Today we're doing a little haul, all new releases and upcoming releases. So let's get into it. So I think I have 13 books here to share with you. All of them are brand spanking new releases, and some of them haven't even come out yet, and I am very eager to read all of these. So let's dive in. We're going in order of release. So the ones that haven't been released yet are a little later on. The first book I want to talk to you about is The Shadows by Alex North. This came out, whoa, look at the sweat, my sweat on this book. This book was sent to me by Celadon Books, and I so appreciate it. I'm really eager to read this. This came out in July and took a while to get to me because it was coming from the States. So when it did, I got really excited. This is about a very shocking murder that happened in Paul's childhood home. This guy named Charlie Crabtree, was always a bit odd, I guess. And I think everyone knew he was capable of darkness, but no one knew how dark he would be. He ended up killing actually several of Paul's friends. And Paul has tried to rebuild his life. He got out of that town, but his mother is very sick, and he knows he has to go back. And so he does go back to the town. And then a series of murders, very similar, start up again. And he fears for his life. People are following him. And apparently Charlie Crabtree, after he went on that murder spree, actually just disappeared, so he was never caught. So is Charlie back? Is it a copycat? What is it? It sounds great. I don't know. I'm really excited about that. It's got a bit of a mix of like horror and thriller to me. It's got that vibe. Okay, it's time to start reading the first lines. This is The Shadows by Alex North. Is it going to be 5 stars? On the day it began, Detective Amanda Beck was technically off work. Okay, definitely not a 5-star first line. Next up is a book that Penguin Random House Canada sent to me, and I was so eager because this has been all over BookTube. And it's The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This takes place from the 1950s to the 1990s, and we follow 2 sisters who can pass as white. And one day they both run away from home, but separately. And one of them decides to pass as white. She marries a white man and never tells him about her black family. And then the other sister marries a black man and has a black child. And it is about their stories and also these 2 lives coming together again. And I've only heard good things about this. And I know it has a lot of hype, but I read Britt Bennett's The Mother when it first came out, and I really loved it. I think she's a beautiful writer, so I have a good feeling about this. Also, I think it's kind of a retelling of Passing by Nella Larson, and I loved that book many moons ago when I read it in university. So, hooray for The Vanishing Half. Shall we read the first line of The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett? The morning one of the lost twins returned to Mallard, Lou LeBon ran to the diner to break the news, and even now, many years later, everyone remembers the shock of sweaty Lou, pushing through the glass doors, chest heaving, neckline darkened with his own effort. Oh yeah, I think that's a 5-star first line. Next is a book I could not wait to get my hands on. I ordered it recently, and it's probably the most beautiful cover I've ever seen. It's The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. Now, Emma Donoghue is an Irish-Canadian author. She, I think, grew up in Ireland and has since moved to Canada. And this takes place during the Spanish flu. And it takes place in Ireland. And we follow a group of women. Many of them are nurses or volunteers working with expectant mothers who have contracted the Spanish flu. And it is about how these women pull each other up while they're working, the loss of some of these patients. And I am so eager to read it. I think my Uncle Dennis recently read this and really enjoyed it. And then I got this for my sister for her birthday as well because, yes, Canadian literature. And like, yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic and I don't know what it is about me, but I am kind of drawn to stories that are kind of similar. I don't know. It helps me for some reason. And I'm just so intrigued by this book. So that's The Pull of the Stars. Let's read the first line of The Pull of the Stars. Still hours of dark to go when I left the house that morning. Not a 5-star first line, but like that is intriguing already. Next up is The Book of Lost Names by Kristen Harmel. Barry went out to just do a little grocery shop or do some errands over at Walmart. And he came back with this book for me, which was so nice of him. I had been reading a lot of heavy books, and while this is about World War II, which is heavy, it felt right at the time. So I've already read this. This is about a young woman living in France. Now, she is Jewish, her family is Jewish, and she gets tipped off that the Nazis, who have already invaded, will be going from house to house finding Jewish people and sending them away to work camps. And she is able to flee and go to a little town in France and try to cover up who she is. And she starts working with this group of essentially resistance fighters who are trying to create false documents for Jewish children so that they can save these Jewish children's lives. And she's part of that group. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was like the best World War II fiction book I've ever read. I did enjoy it. I think I gave it 3 stars. I'm going to pass it along. But yeah, it was a fun one for sure. Okay, let's read the first line of The Book of Lost Names, even though I've already read this. I don't remember the first line. It's Saturday morning, and I'm midway through my shift at the Winter Park Public Library when I see it. I wouldn't say that's a 5-star first line. Next is another book that has been all over YouTube, and I feel like it's just going to fill a little bit of a void for me. And it is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. Now, Penguin Random House Canada also kindly sent this over to me, which I'm so grateful for. This is a bit of a rom-com vibe. It is about a plus-size woman who reaches out to a reality TV show called The Main Squeeze. And she says, hey guys, you're not being very inclusive. Why don't you have a plus-size woman as your main, lead in this bachelorette-like reality TV show? And they say, okay, what about you? And so she decides to accept and become essentially the Bachelorette as a plus-size woman. And I'm a plus-size woman, and I also really love The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, even though I know it's so problematic and strange. I love it. I miss it. I know it's being shot right now. The Bachelorette is being shot at the moment with 2 bachelorettes. Oh, yeah, that's exciting. So, I mean, it also seems like the perfect book to read at the end of summer. No? I think so. So I'll probably be picking this one up pretty soon. I don't know why. I'm not already expecting this to be a 5-star first line. I guess because it's like a light book, but you never know. Maybe I'll love it. The flea market at Klingen Court was at the far northern edge of the city, a few blocks past the final stop on the number 4 metro, where the Parisian architecture grew more simple, more mundane, a reminder that not all of the city was steeped in centuries of history and romance. Yeah, not a 5-star first line. So Penguin Random House Canada also sent me Luster by Ravin Leilani. This sounds similar in some ways to Queenie, which is why I requested this, because I loved Queenie so much. And I think this is meant to be comedic with a lot of depth to it, which is how I felt about Queenie. This is about a girl, a Black woman named Eddie. She's in her 20s, kind of struggling, and she meets this man named Eric. He's a digital archivist. He is a married man. He has a family in New Jersey, and he has an open relationship with his wife. And he kind of invites her in. And I think she befriends in some ways his wife and also becomes a bit of a role model to his adopted daughter. It sounds like a very complicated situation that I would not want to be in, if I'm being honest. But also it sounds very interesting too. So I am really, really eager to read this. Let's read the first line of Luster. The first time we have sex, we are both fully clothed, at our desks during working hours, bathed in blue computer light. Yikes. Wouldn't say it's a 5-star first line, but like you get to know what this book is going to be about. Whoa. And then last for the books that have already come out is Alice Feeney's His and Hers. Now you all know, I think, how much I adore Alice Feeney as a thriller writer. I just think she's fantastic and so twisty-turny in her stories. And I've heard that this is her best yet. Not that she's written like 45 books. This is her 3rd. But I loved Sometimes I Lie so much that I can't really imagine anything topping that. This follows a couple who are separated on their way to a divorce. He is a police chief, or he's a cop of some sort, and she is a reporter. And her boss calls her to her hometown where she grew up. She doesn't live there anymore, but calls her to her hometown because there was a murder that happened there, and she needs to cover it. And she gets there and finds out that it was a childhood friend of theirs. And it is about the couple and how they deal with that. I don't know much more about it, and I don't really want to know too much more about it. I just want to dive in and just love on Alice Feeney's writing and just have a wonderful, wonderful time of it. Will it be a 5-star first line? It wasn't love at first sight. Not a 5-star first line. Next is a book that is coming out on September 1st, and this is The Bass Rock by Evie Wilde. I believe that this is Jen Campbell's favorite book of the year that she's read so far. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was it. And this is meant to be gothic and beautifully written. And this follows 3 women in 3 different time periods. We follow Sarah, who is accused of being a witch and is running away, fleeing for her life. We follow Ruth just after World War II. She has remarried and she's adjusting to her new life and her new love. And then we follow Viv, who I think her storyline takes place in the present day, and she is actually going through Ruth's belongings. And it is about how men have pretty much decided in many ways all of their lives and what is going to happen in their lives, but it is also about the power of female friendship, crafting a new life for themselves. It sounds so good. It sounds so good, and I can't wait to read this. So this one comes out on September 1st. I will say I do think that the UK cover is nicer than this one, but it's still really beautiful. So you can only imagine what the UK cover looks like. Let's read the first line of the Bass Rock. I was just 6, and just the two of us, my mother and I, took Bowie for a walk along the beach where she and Dad grew up. The shore a mix of black rock and a pale cold sand. Not 5 stars. The next book I want to talk to you about is one that comes out on September 20th. It's The Exiles by Christina Baker Klein. I read The Orphan Train by her and I just adored it. I thought it was wonderful and compelling. This follows a group of women in the 19th century. They have been essentially banished from their homes, and they together are sailing to Australia for a new life. Now, I think some of these women are unwed mothers, and I think they're being sent with their children over to Australia to like build an entirely new life for themselves. And it's about their friendships and their relationships with one another, and it just sounds fantastic. This was sent to me kindly from HarperCollins Canada, and I am so eager to read this. Also, I love the cover. Like, there's something about these colors on a book. It just works for me. It does. Let's read the first line of The Exiles now. Mathena had been hiding in the bush for 2 days when the rains came. I would say yes. That's a 5-star first line. Another book sent to me by HarperCollins Canada, also coming out on September 20th, is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. Now, Alyssa Cole is a Black author who has written a series of romance novels that are apparently amazing, and I'm kind of interested in them. I think this is her first thriller. The blurb on the back says, this is Rear Window meets Get Out. This is about a Black woman living in Brooklyn, and her neighborhood is experiencing gentrification, and so many people are moving out, and she's not really recognizing her neighborhood anymore. Now, she does make friends with a new neighbor who moves into the neighborhood named Theo, but the question is, can she trust him, and what is happening in this neighborhood? I am so eager to read this. I am really interested in reading books by Black authors about the Black experience in different kinds of genres. I love that this is a thriller written by a Black author, and I really want to read more thrillers by Black authors. I'd love to read spy novels by Black authors, historical fiction by Black authors. Yes. It sounds wonderful. It's time for the first line of When No One Is Watching. History is fucking wild. I like it. I don't think it's 5 stars, but I really like it. Next is a book coming out on October 6th. This is a prequel to Practical Magic. Now, I read The Rules of Magic. I still haven't even read Practical Magic. But this is Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman. This was sent to me kindly by Simon & Schuster Canada. This explores Maria Owen's story. In Practical Magic, in The Rules of Magic, you know that there is a curse on this family, all related around love, and basically if you fall in love with someone, they will die. And this explores the woman who started that curse on their family. We follow a woman named Maria Owens in the 1600s. She is abandoned as a baby and is raised by a woman named Hannah. And Hannah sees that there is magic in Maria and teaches her the ways of the nameless art. Now, Hannah has told her that you must always love someone who will love you back. Unfortunately for Maria, she falls in love with a man who tells her that he loves her back, but then essentially betrays her, and she follows him to Salem, Massachusetts, and here she invokes the curse that will haunt her family. I just want to know where it starts, and then I'll probably read Practical Magic after that. Like, I don't know why I still haven't read Practical Magic. I'm reading this series in such a random way, but I don't mind it. I really did enjoy the rules of magic, and I felt for all of the characters in the Owens family, so I would love to know where it all started from. Sounds great. Let's read the first line of Magic Lessons. She was found on a January day in a field where the junipers grew, wound in a blue blanket with her name carefully stitched along the border with silk thread. I like that. I think that's a 5-star first line for me. I just realized all of these next ones are from Simon & Schuster Canada. So this next one also comes out on October 6th, and it's called Group: How One Therapist and a Circle of Strangers Saved My Life. Now, I became interested in this book in particular because it has been kind of compared to Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb, and she actually blurbs this book and praises this book. And in that book, it's about a therapist going to therapy. And in this, it's a debut memoir about a woman, Christy, who is a young lawyer going to therapy, but group therapy. And it's meant to be quite funny at times. And I'm kind of here for this kind of story, especially knowing that it's nonfiction. And I got so much out of Maybe You Should Talk to Someone that I have very high hopes for Group. Shall we read the first line of Group? Okay. The first time I wished for death, like really wished its bony hand would tap me on the shoulder and say this way, 2 bags from a Stanley's fruit and vegetables sat, shotgun, in my car. I think that's definitely a 5-star first line, especially this is nonfiction. Yeah. And last but not least, oh boy, this is a book coming out in November 10th. It is Little Cruelties by Liz Nugent, I should say. I actually was able to go on a Zoom call with Liz Nugent being interviewed by the publisher, and it was really enjoyable. I was able to ask questions and have my questions answered, and I really love Liz Nugent's stories. They are thrillers about very unlikable characters, and yet you are somehow compelled to follow the arcs of their stories. Usually something tragic has happened to them, and so it's not like you have zero sympathy for them, even though you don't agree with what they're doing. You still care about them. So in Little Cruelties, we follow 3 brothers. They're at a funeral. One of them is in the coffin, and you don't know which one is in the coffin until the end, and you don't know which brother put that brother in the coffin until the end. And we follow a family that's, I think, quite complex and quite dysfunctional, and I think there's fame and the implications of fame in here. It sounds so good, and I'm really, really eager to read Little Cruelties. So yeah, that comes out November 10th. It's time to read the first line of Little My daughter Daisy had just been born, and Susan was feeling the strain of new motherhood. That's not a 5-star first line. Those are all of the books that I wanted to share with you. I hope that you guys don't mind this. It's a bit of a departure from me in the way that I did this haul. I don't think I've ever done a haul where I exclusively talked about new releases. But I actually have a real desire to read like all of the 2020 books on my shelves. That might be a thing in my fall TBR. We shall see. We will see. I hope that you guys are doing really well. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these, and if you've liked them. Don't give me any spoilers, please. Not that you guys do that, but just in case. I will also link down below in the description box my Goodreads page, my Amazon wishlist, my Instagram, my Patreon. I hope you're doing really well, and I will talk with you soon. Bye!